Hello and welcome. Today we are going to take a look at the routine set for set 3 of my tutorial series on lightsaber spinning. Now this set is going to feature some of the moves that we dealt with in set 3. Particularly we're going to see the blade barrier, which we worked to. We're going to be dealing with a slight variation on the blade barrier because we're going to move with it. We're going to be seeing some cross steps and some cross step strikes, also called X steps. We're going to be seeing a wing spin. We're going to walk with that as well, and we're going to see an inverse Obiani as well as an inverse full plum flower in this set. So this time we're doing things a little bit differently. As you can tell, I'm dealing with a voiceover, and I'm going to lay that on top of some footage that's going to walk you through it so that you can hear my voice a little bit better and I don't have to keep coming up to the camera and moving back away from it. So before we get going on the walkthrough, let's take one look real quick at the entire sequence all the way through. We start with two of the moving blade barriers. Notice I'm pivot stepping with those into a cross step and a strike. We're going to step back into a guard. We're going to do a walking wing spin. I'm doing it very slowly here, into a reverse Obiani and a cross step, a strike, and then a reverse plum flower spin into a guard. Looks complicated, but you'll get it. So let's take a look at the first bit. This is that walking blade barrier. Now you notice what I'm doing here is I'm just doing two hand switches, one up front and one behind my back. But I'm taking two pivot steps from set 2 in between the hand switches. Here it is a little bit sped up. Alright, so once again, I start off with a front, pivot step, back, pivot step, and then repeat. Front, pivot step, back, pivot step, and we're going to finish that off with an X step, or a cross step, with a strike. Okay, you notice that my left foot on that cross step is going behind my body, and I'm just bringing the blade down to my side. So one more time, behind the back, cross step and blade down. Behind the back, slow down a little bit, cross step and blade down. And I'm finishing up in that sort of dance pose right there. Okay, this is probably well, I wouldn't say this is the hardest part of the set, but notice the foot behind, finishing up right there. Now the next step is just to finish that unwind swing. Now like we dealt with in the cross step section, I'm starting with my feet crossed, and I'm just pivoting around into a swing. Now I'm starting you off here by continuing that swing in the same direction that we've been going, pointing out, so away from our starting position. Later down the road, we're going to bring it to the other side. Right. Off of that strike, we just bring the saber up, step back, and into a guard. Bring the saber up, turn it around, step back into a guard. I'm stepping back with my right foot. So here's the sequence so far. Two moving blade barriers, into a cross step and a strike. Blade goes up, step back. Blade goes up, step back with the right foot into a guard, and I'm putting both hands on the saber. Now from here, it gets a little bit tricky. What I'm going to be doing here is a walking wing spin. Alright, let's see that again. From that guard, my right foot goes forward, the Obiani portion, left foot goes forward for the over the shoulder, right foot goes forward again. We'll take that third step out in a little bit. I'll talk about why it's in there momentarily. From the guard, right foot forward, Obiani, left foot forward, over the shoulder, and down. Right. Now the next part is going to involve replacing that third step with a reverse eclipse spin into a cross step strike. Now that looks complicated. Let's take a walk through it. So from that guard position, right foot goes forward for the Obiani, left foot goes forward for the over the shoulder. Now my right foot is going to go back behind me as a pivot step. This is a little bit tricky. We're taking that third step out. Right foot goes back behind me as I do that reverse eclipse spin. Notice the stabbing motion, and I'm just pivoting while I do it into a cross-step strike. So once again, the over-the-shoulder, pivot, cross-step strike. All right, let's take a look at the full sequence to this point. 2 moving blade barriers, cross-step strike, strike, step back into guard, right foot forward on the obiene, left foot forward on the over-the-shoulder, pivot behind with a reverse eclipse into a cross-step strike. Notice my feet here are crossed. Then I'm just going to unwind that strike, again in the direction of traffic, or the direction of the movement. Unwind to a strike. All right, so here's the second half again. Okay, at this point, at the end of that strike, my left foot is forward. And now, all I'm going to be doing, I've got both hands on it, I'm going to be doing a reverse plum flower. So the reverse obiene, cross over, and then back to guard. Left foot forward, back foot at an angle. Reverse plum flower, and back to guard. Alright, so here's the second half of it again. From the guard, right foot, left foot, step back to a pivot, strike, unwind, strike, feet stay stationary, reverse plum flower into a low guard. Right. Let's take a look at the whole thing again. 2 moving blade barriers with pivot steps into a cross strike. Duck under the saber into a guard, 1 wing spin with 2 steps, reverse obiene into a cross step, a strike, reverse plum flower, 2 hands on the saber into a guard. Right, now we're going to widen the stance a little bit and fine-tune this. So instead of walking, we're going to bend the knees, widen the stance, do the same thing with bigger steps. Pivot step, switch, pivot step, 2 blade barriers, cross step, strike, duck under, back into a guard, 2 steps forward. Now when our feet are wider this time, we have to be careful not to hit our feet on the wing spin or the reverse obiene. Finish it off with a reverse plum flower. Keep the knees bent and a wide stance the whole time. Here it is a little bit quicker. And there you have it. That is the routine for set 3. Makes use of a lot of the material from set 3. If you join me back here for set 4, I've released a teaser of that, but set 4 is going to be dealing with the last thing that we can really start doing with single saber before we start moving over into double saber and staff, which is going to be aerials, flips and rolls. Some of the fancy looking stuff that isn't very practical in combat, though we will talk a little bit about the practicality that it does have. But it is very flashy, and that's what we'll be covering in set 4. Please join me back here for that. Like and subscribe if this video has helped, and happy sabering.